Today, we're pulling back the curtain and uncovering Big Time's data to help you make better decisions while we are in Leaderboard Airdrop Round 3. Even if you're not competing, this data is interesting, and I haven't seen many players talk about it yet. Stay tuned because what you can learn today could change the way that you play, buy, sell, and understand the world of Big Time. In this deep dive, you can expect breaking down the leaderboard round. I revealed the raw numbers and trends comparing round 1 to round 2, economic undercurrents, discovering economic forces at play that could make or break your in-game strategy and potential buys and purchases. GM to all the new faces and returning strategists. Before we look into the numbers, a quick disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You can lose money with crypto and NFTs. Also, the crypto world moves fast. Always double check the latest updates before making any decision. If you've been following the channel, you know I've had concerns about Big Time in the short term to medium term. The gist is the game is based on this premise of a player-owned economy. And what if instead of companies, it was the players who were selling the skins instead? The video game industry is a multi-billion-dollar video game industry where selling skins is a big revenue driver of over $50 billion currently. But this fundamental idea that Big Time is founded on is flawed currently, in my opinion, due to several factors. One, there's not enough players to support the demand to buy these skins. Two, there's no real demand for the existing skins, like how players are buying skins in other games like League of Legends, Fortnite. Last, frankly, the price point for the quality of these cosmetics that you get is terrible for the money that you spend and to craft them. And when you look at these two examples, these are 5-digit cosmetics, $25,000 difference between these two NFTs, and the only difference between these two is that lightning bolt and the scarcity of this. This is wild, and I don't know if this is going to be something sustainable if there isn't anybody at the top end willing to buy these cosmetics. Future Jeff here, editing note. I'm specifically referring to crafting cosmetics that are not random NFT drops. I'm critiquing craftables because this is supposed to be one of the main uses of Big Time token in-game, and without it, there's not a sufficient token sink. And if no one is buying these cosmetics besides for crafting for points, how will the game fight token inflation? All of this together, I feel, is fundamentally unsustainable, but that doesn't mean Big Time won't survive in the long term because the team is creating and releasing more content, and they've developed more since I played in Gold Early Access. And honestly, I believe that Big Time will be here in the long term, but how the economy looks will be different, mainly in the value and the prices that we're seeing for everything right now, and also how the team has to adjust to what's going on. And if they can keep up the demand for the token in game after this, when there's no juicy airdrop for players to chase. Increased supply with decreased demand leads to a lower token price potentially. But timing these things is hard because we don't know when the effects of the token inflation will impact the value of the Big Time token. That said, when I analyze these situations, I always ask myself, am I wrong? So for this video, to test my assumptions, I dived into the data. Let's uncover what I found because, again, this is interesting. I'll be covering a lot, so I left time codes below so you can come back and refer to them in the future. With a simple but yet effective strategy, I exported the leaderboard data into Excel, setting the stage for a comparison between round 1 and round 2 to uncover potential trends. Unfortunately, the ability to dive into round 3 data was removed, leaving us with some unanswered questions if these trends are continuing. Let's jump into what we have currently. Let's start with a surprising discovery. Round 1's leaderboard was on fire with 2.4 billion points, in stark contrast to round 2's 1.2 billion. But this was easily explained by the number of players that qualified for rewards. Round 1 hosted the top 5,000 players, while round 2 narrowed it down to the top 3,000. Also, round 1 had issues with players taking advantage of the referral system, where players gained massive points because of it. And in round 2, referral points were heavily adjusted and cut in half. But digging deeper, after removing the referral points and comparing the top 3,000 qualifying players from each round, we get a clearer picture. The top 3,000 from round 1 scored 2.1 billion points. About in round 2, the number dropped to 1.1 billion. This is a significant decrease that raises questions about player engagement from one round to the next. I thought this might be explained by decreasing rewards during round two, but round two again had more active days. Round one was about 31 days, and round two was 56 days total. That's a whole 25 days extra, nearly the entire length of round one. And it wasn't just total points. In round one, you needed 53,200 points to make it into the top 5,000. But in round two, the bar was set at 37,815 points for the top 3,000, despite the longer duration. This could suggest that round one was indeed more fiercely contested. Let's turn our focus to player retention. Only 1,608 players out of 5,000 players from round one re-entered the battle in round two. This is a question on the game's ability to hold previous players, or were there just more players appearing? This is something that I wasn't sure of, so what I wanted to do was take a look at the returning players. Did they try harder the second time around? And I measured this by looking at, did they rank higher and by how much? Of this 1,608 returning players, a group of 683 were ranked lower, and not just by a little bit, their median decrease was by 438 points. But at least there were more players, 926 to be exact, that climbed higher, showcasing players who returned, wanted to improve, and qualify at higher tiers. And I was personally one of those players who fit into this category. And a total of 1,392 newcomers joined the leaderboard, while 3,392 fighters from round one disappeared from the ranks, marking a notable shift in leaderboard. So this made me wonder, how many of round two top 100 players didn't compete in round two? The story takes a curious turn where 24 chose not to compete at all in round two. Breaking into the top 100 also wasn't easy and previously required 3.4 million points, meaning you needed substantial assets and spending to achieve this. So the absence of them in the following rounds adds to an intriguing layer into the competitive narrative of losing attention in the next round. This alone would raise potential concerns, but could be explained away by a variety of factors if we had access to that data, but we don't. So instead, what I did was I wanted to look at demand and how it was being affected by looking at BigTime's marketplace over the past 3 weeks by taking 3 separate snapshots of the prices and supply numbers. By doing this for key economic assets on the marketplace: time wardens, space, hourglasses, and crafting materials. There is a trend of declining prices, and a sweeping glance across the marketplace reveals a downward trend against most item prices. Interestingly, this dip is not just about oversupply. Even items with lower supply and scarcity are seeing a dip in prices. This is with the exception of time wardens. In this general downturn, time wardens stand out. Their value, particularly those from uncommon to rare rarities, has seen an uptick, driven by a recent change by the team where cracked hourglasses can now only be dismantled by equal or higher time warden rarity, which has helped push prices up a little bit. However, not all time wardens are riding this wave of appreciation. Exalted and exotic rarities have also taken a hit. The increase in listing, especially for exalted time wardens, hints at some whales possibly looking to cash out, and is also a subtle signal of shifting tides in probably the higher echelons of players and that tier of money that is being spent. And perhaps the most telling indicator comes from hourglasses, where we're witnessing staggering losses. These are central to the game's mechanics and usually reflecting players' expectations of potential big time earnings from dungeons and the demand for them. This significant markdown also could be a measurement for the community's expectations and waning willingness to invest. It's also not just in these numbers, but when you look into the rentals, we see a market in decline. And we finally get to space, the cornerstone of Big Time's virtual real estate, which isn't immune to these market pressures. Across the board, from large exalted to large legendary, prices are tumbling. This increasing number of listings paints a picture of market brimming with supply but starved on demand. And when you couple this from watching the token supply that from around round two, when I first looked at it, was around 6 to 7%. And unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers because I lost that video because it got corrupted. but the current number today is about 8.45% of token inflation. And with more tokens in the market with potentially less demand, we're looking at a situation where the value of tokens and related assets could be at risk. The data is pointing to some concerning trends. The increase in tokens without matching rise in active claims and overall engagement suggests that we're heading towards an oversupply issue. I hope that the Big Time team can come up with a solution to increase the use for tokens in game. We're starting to see them implement some solutions like Portal mod chips can be purchased with Big Time. But if the demand cannot keep up with the supply, where this is going to be a problem that can easily get out of hand. The game's economy is already starting to show signs of strain, and we need to be mindful of how we navigate these waters. And to encourage you to critically think and apply it to your own strategy and what you believe. It's crucial for us as players and for those who are part of this community in Big Time to engage with the data, challenge our assumptions, and make informed decisions about your involvement in the game and see if there can be improvements by the team moving forward with communication and collaboration. And as we move forward, let's keep the conversation going. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, strategies, and how you're navigating these changes in the comments below. Together, we can stay ahead of this and make the most of our time playing Big Time while being mindful of the risks and the opportunities ahead. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll like this video where I go in depth about the risks that I mentioned about Big Time. So check it out